All right, folks, welcome back to another episode. I'm starting to actually lose count of the number of episodes here we're producing at the Marriott Street Capital podcast called Beyond the Inflection Point. With me today is a good friend of mine, a gentleman with whom I've become relatively good friends over the last few years, named Mark Cinco. Mark Cinco runs his own consulting and leadership firm called Cinco LLC. Mark, that's probably a good place to jump into the conversation. Uh, Tell us about Cinco and how you wound up starting this firm and what you're trying to accomplish with it.
So, very background prior to that, but I've been doing this now since 2008. I originally got into the business that I'm in as a Vistage chair, and Vistage is the world's largest chief executive organization. So it's running boards of advisors, peer groups for CEOs, presidents. I specifically focus on entrepreneurs. Um, that's my background, that's my sandbox. And we discuss the common challenges and issues that everybody has in business because everybody does sales and marketing, finance and accounting, and operations. Whether you're running an HVAC company or you're running a pharmaceutical company or you're doing have a distribution company. So it crosses business lines.
And so, what's the format under which you work with these entrepreneurs?
So meetings run about 3.5 hours, and typically we start with significant events. So the members provide an update on the last 30 days, both personally and professionally. Take about 3 to 5 minutes just to do that. If they've processed an issue, and I'll explain that in a second, the accountability component is they give us an update on what's happened. Then I'll bring in speakers to come in. They talk on topics. It could be culture, it could be Gen Z. During the pandemic, I had a psychiatrist come in and speak to the group for both the purpose of the mindset of both the business owner as well as their employees. We didn't know we didn't know, and it was a very unsettling time. So it's anyone that can help benefit the members in the group as this type of speakers that I bring in. And then we ultimately get to issue processing, which is the meat of the business or the meat of the meeting. And someone will bring an issue to the group. It'll be whatever the question is, why it's significant, background information, what they've done to date, what they'd like to get from the results of the discussion, what's getting in their way, and then it's clarifying questions, so it's open-ended questions, no recommendations. Everybody always wants to go to a recommendation. It's just natural, but I focus on just getting enough information that they can make a good recommendation afterwards. So the clarifying questions is an open discussion. The recommendations, the person that's bringing the issue sits back and listens to the collective intelligence of those in the room. So it's what each individual business owner, regardless of the industry, what they would do if they were in that person's situation and how they would handle it. And then again, accountability is subsequent meetings, what they've done based upon the recommendations.
Mark, I've spoken to a couple of your groups thanks to your very courteous invite there. These are breakfast meetings, right?
Yes.
Okay. And there are what, like a dozen or more CEO, founder, entrepreneur types in each of these meetings?
Yes. So members, I mean, it's usually the smallest group has 11 members in it, but I usually take it up to 15 or 16. And
Okay.
the reason that it caps at that is that everybody needs to get airtime. And
Hmm.
it's up to me to make sure that I get everybody the fair amount of time. So
And I know your members speak very highly of these groups. You've got one, what, in Delaware County, and then another one in southern New Jersey. Are there any others?
So business has changed a little bit in the last
Okay.
6 months. So yes, I have one group. Actually, it's not Delaware County that it meets in it was in Conshohocken. It's going to be King of Prussia starting next
Oh,
month.
so
And
Montgomery
then,
County, I
yeah,
guess.
there you go, Montgomery
Yep.
County. And the other one was South Jersey, like you said.
Hmm.
I also had a contract with an organization called the Delaware Valley Industrial Resource Center. So they're part of
Hmm.
something called the Manufacturing Extension Programs that's throughout the nation. But I recently stopped doing that. So I'm actually launching a third group, also to be run in the South Jersey area. It's in the Mountain Royal. And their initial meeting will be September. I had an introductory meeting in June, and we actually start in September. So there'll be
Okay.
three groups.
And what's the composition of that group? Are there any specific criteria there?
So no two members can be in the same industry.
Yep.
And other than that, there are no criteria. So I've got a company that does similar to Belfor. So they do
Like disaster
restoration,
recovery.
disaster recovery. I've got someone that has a PEO, professional employment organization.
Hmm.
I've got a fractional CFO. I've got a marketing firm in that group. I've got a commercial roofing business in that group. I have an MSP and managed services provider, IT, uh,
Hmm.
and there'll be an HVAC company. So it's a variety. It's some of it's
Hmm.
trade, some of it's service providers, some of it's can be actually there's a manufacturer in that group as well.
Okay, great. What are you hoping to do with Cinco?
That's a really good question. So, I will continue to do what I do. I really enjoy it. So, my background is in manufacturing and distribution. I had a
Mhm.
company in Malaysia at one point where I manufactured latex gloves, and I had a distribution company in the United States. I had a medical transcription service. I had a home medical equipment business. But today, the best thing about what I do is that I have no inventory, I have no
Yep,
receivables, I have no payables, and I have no payroll.
that's
So
awesome.
the only aggravation that I have is self-imposed because I work with these companies now. I don't participate in their growth, but it's really satisfying because I get to see companies do very well. And I will tell you that 90% of the companies during the pandemic came out of it unscathed, and
Hmm.
90% of the companies, maybe even more than that, are operating quite profitably. So, and it's very satisfying. So that and I
That's
continue to do this because there's no reason to slow it down. I'm not, there's no reason for me to retire because I have fun, I do what I do, and it's not taxing on my schedule.
that's fantastic. How, I assume you find most of your companies through word of mouth. I mean, I know a number of the companies that attend your groups, and most of them seem to know each other and seem like they knew each other for years, even before joining the group. Is that the case? Is word of mouth the number one way?
So when I first got started, it was really challenging
Hmm.
because I didn't know how to do this. It's gotten easier over the years. Introductions are always the best way to do it. Um, but I will tell you, it's interesting. I went through some Sandler training, so I can
Hmm.
tell you, like, and the math really works like this. You end up, in order to come up with like 10 members, you need to start with like 80 suspects, right?
Okay.
Of those 80, 40 of them you have a conversation with. And of
Hmm.
those 40, 10 you get to come to attend a meeting because they have to see it. Not everybody
Yep.
does it that way, but I make sure that anybody that I introduce or I would like to have as a member, I need to have they need to see what it's like because
Hmm.
see if it's really right for them, and I've got to make the determination if it's right for me or the group. But and out of those 20, you get 10, right? So
Yep.
those are the numbers. And it really and it's been consistent as far as that's concerned. But I reach out to those that I know that know me, and if they know understand what I do, and through that I get introductions. That's how I start with the suspects to the prospects to the those that attend.
Yeah. And you're also part of a number of groups yourself, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So which groups have been beneficial to you?
So There's a couple that I do. So there's a distinction between what I do and then like a networking group.
Hmm.
So from a networking standpoint, I've been a member of BCA for a number of years. It's Business Clubs of America. It is a phenomenal organization. It's business owners helping business owners grow. Similar to what I do, it's the decision maker and only one member can be in each category. Um, and the organization has grown dramatically over the years. But the best way to describe it to you is if anyone is familiar with organizations like BNI and LATIP, um, I would say that that's like kindergarten. And I would say that BCA is like postgraduate work. It's a very well-run organization, and those that are members really want and know how to develop relationships because it's relationship marketing. So that's
Hmm.
one organization. And then I have to give a kudos to a gentleman. His name's Anthony Mangaluzzo.
Oh, yes.
He runs a company in South Jersey. He's an MSP, serial entrepreneur. He's involved in a lot of different businesses. The company that he's got is that's actually what's the name of the company? I just
Yeah, it's PCS.
PCS. Yeah. In any
Yes.
event,
He's
Anthony.
episode number 4, by the
Oh, okay. So you could tell him that I said this.
way.
Anthony introduced me to an organization called a Jersey Man and Philly Man.
Yes.
So it's not quite as sophisticated as BCA, but maybe like it's close.
Hmm.
Maybe that's a college education versus postgraduate work. And through that, I was able to meet companies that are in South Jersey and was able to launch a group in South Jersey in 2015.
Fantastic. Are you still part of Philly 100? I know you're on the board there.
So I was, you can only do so many organizations like that.
Yes.
So I chose to like take a step back from that. But that also was a resource for me, especially earlier on, because been several iterations of the Philly 100 and it's evolved over the years. So I was in it when the Philadelphia Business Journal and Wharton's SBDC, Small Business Development Center, and the Philadelphia Entrepreneurs Forum in Philadelphia. They were the owners of it. So
Ah,
I was on the board at that point. I had pulled back. I went back into it again because they've reworked the organization. But again, you can only do so many things, and I couldn't devote the time and the energy and the effort that was worth it, and they benefited from. So I decided to pull back.
I totally sympathize with that decision. It's always a hard one, but I just stepped down from the organization after 9 years on the board. I love the organization. I'll still attend the events, but I just don't have the bandwidth to keep giving what I had been giving to the board. So I completely understand that. Um, what are the themes? So you talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, like we do. What are some of the themes you hear today?
So I will tell you that across the board, the greatest challenge everybody has is identifying, hiring, and retaining talent. That
Okay.
is everybody has that challenge. I mean, there's other things like, for example, we're going to discuss one of the members had an organization that's grown significantly. They had a compensation scheme for their salespeople that was very aggressive, but the way that they're attracting business today is a little bit different, and
Hmm.
it was a little over aggressive on a component of it, which was the distribution component of it, as opposed to like the direct manufacturing and sale and installation component of it, and they have to make that adjustment. And there's a real concern that they could lose some of their salespeople because they won't be making the same amount of money, but they really aren't earning the money on the recurring revenue component of it because their internal people are taking care of those accounts, but they're still getting credit for it. So that'll be a challenge. It'll be an interesting discussion and it'll be a challenge. But we had another discussion. One of the members in one of the groups he's an MSP, and
Hmm.
he decided he was going to set up this new business. It was a DIY business, do it yourself business, and it was in regards to like anything from setting up like alarm systems within their own homes and that type of thing. Um,
Hmm.
so it was an interesting discussion because it was completely different. It was completely outside of what he currently does. And he wanted to get some feedback on some of the ideas that he had and whether it was going to be a viable business or not. So
Hmm.
topics can and range in a lot of different areas. But again, to go back to your question, I would say well, it's culture related and talent. That's those are the biggest challenges people have in business.
So how are you seeing these businesses solve those challenges?
Well, the pandemic had a significant impact because we went from everybody was in the office to everybody wasn't in the office, and now there's the hybrid and there's the mindset of like, I was able to do it at home before, why can't I do it today? But there's something to be said for um, being physically with your coworkers. However, there's a lot of things that are changing in the market. And one of the speakers that we had spoke on Gen Z. The mindset of those that are the Gen Z is completely different than those that are millennials or, I'm a baby boomer, right? So
Hmm.
my mindset's completely different. However, interestingly enough, one of the statistics that was shared is that in the next 5 years, 50% of the working population will be Gen Z, and they have a subscription-based mindset. Like if they're not happy with what's going on now, they'll just find it elsewhere. So it's an interesting time, and for those business owners, if we don't identify or if we don't realize that the market's changing, we could become obsolete within the next 5 years because the buying is different, manufacturing is different, all the various aspects of business are changing and evolving, and it's up to those that are probably some of the senior business owners to realize that and be adaptable. And if we're not flexible, we may not be in business.
I see that really resonates with me. I've spent the last part of the last 2 days working on a script for a pitch deck for one of our clients that will looking to be raising a pretty substantial amount of money over the next year. One of the stats that jumped out to me was that employers currently feel that half of college graduates do not have the skills necessary to be successful in their jobs. And specifically, those are soft skills like communication, critical thinking, teamwork, that sort of thing. That's it, and so you marry that with the fact that something like 2/3 of employers are currently replacing managers with
Yeah.
artificial intelligence implementation. And so the question that arises is who's going to teach these young people the soft skills they need to be successful?
Well, look, the pandemic had a significant impact, right? I mean, for the kids that were coming through high school or college, and they all of a sudden they were no longer with others. Our well, the millennials and the boomers, I mean, we're accustomed to face-to-face communications,
Mhm.
but right now everybody relies on like all of the technology and they don't have conversations. And that's scary. And kids today, it's unbelievable. They don't have math skills.
Right.
We were able, I don't know, not we, but in general, it's like, we can do, you could do math in our heads. Like
Mhm.
they can't do that. So it's communication skills, but it's also the mathematics skills.
Oh, I find myself double and triple checking math all the time. Not necessarily for my folks. I've like specifically, tried to hire for folks who have high aptitude in math, but other places where materials coming to me from externally, I see all sorts of errors. Like yesterday, I saw, okay, this tens of thousands number multiplied by another tens of thousands number was 2.9 billion. Well, no, it's 29 billion. And that's going in like a pretty important piece of collateral. And someone's got to be checking this stuff.
But you're
So,
right. And look, it's the so the younger generations certainly understand technology better, and that's really important.
Hmm.
But some of the other soft skills that you mentioned are critical as well.
No doubt. Uh, okay, so we talked about staffing challenges. Um, what else do you see out there? Any most of your businesses are relatively geographically based, right? Uh, do you see any trends there or concerns like, hey, there's been this big migration from like the Northeast to the Southeast? Anything like that?
I haven't seen any impact in that regards. I've got a couple of clients that have more of a, it's more than just a regional footprint,
Hmm.
but I haven't seen anything else as far as that's concerned.
Hmm.
I would tell you that I think the trades are still pretty strong. I've got,
Yep.
I don't know, maybe 25%, 30% of the members are in the trades of one form or another. Um, but business in general is good. People are concerned about the tariffs, the impact that that's going to play on things. And there's, politically, there's some challenges that are impacting the marketplace. But in general, businesses are doing pretty well that
Yep.
I work with.
Yep. No, that's great to hear. I mean, we see progress generally across the board. Maybe the common theme amongst companies within our ecosystem is that they were hoping for growth like 100, 200%, some of them. And now it's only, 40, 50, 60%. But as you and I know, it's still hard to find businesses that can actually grow 40+%
But
per year. Very
that's
challenging.
that's what you do. That's you help those companies.
Yes, that's exactly right. Mark, what would you say your biggest challenge is at the current moment?
It The only challenge that I have, and I'm happy to say that I was pretty successful at it, would be identifying new members.
Mhm.
Um, and I've done better at it in trying to launch this new group than I've ever done. I think it's because I've been doing it as long as I have, and several of the members that I have been very, very helpful in doing that. Other than that, I mean, my I've been doing it long enough. I've had my retention rate is very strong. I've got members I have one member that's been with me since 2008, but most of I would say I turn over maybe 20% a year. But I don't have any incredible challenges. I mean, financial
That's great.
fine. Members are strong, members are strong. They're committed to the groups. Um, and it's about the members. I mean, yes, I have to put together a team and
Mhm.
it's important. And oh, by the way, I will share with you in the beginning, you take anybody with a pulse. That is not a recipe for success. I
Right,
learned
of
that.
course not.
But and each group has its own chemistry and its own dynamic, which is really interesting to see. But you grow when you spend that much time with people, you get to know one another, friendships are developed. I promote like getting them seeing one another outside of the meetings that we have, so that they
Mhm.
get to know one another on a more of a personal level, and that's beneficial. So I can't really say that there's any real strong challenge that I have in the growth of my business.
And turnover, you mentioned turnover, that could come from a variety of reasons that are just endemic to business. I've seen some of your members sell their businesses
Right.
to larger strategics. You mentioned chemistry. Sometimes people could just feel like, okay, I don't really vibe with this group anymore for whatever reason. I guess there could be a transition in leadership. The CEO could retire, and the next one doesn't want to, or you know.
So I don't run into that much because again, like mine are entrepreneurial businesses.
Hmm.
So I mean, sometimes it's turning it over to like the next generation. I'm
Hmm.
going through some of that now. Um, if they sell the business, that's a possibility. I've got one gentleman that's like actively trying to do that. He left because of that. but it's been pretty consistent. Now, some of the members in some of the groups, I would say again, if it could be 15% are in their 60s,
Hmm.
maybe not even that, but about that. So they're thinking about that transition, and is it a family member? Is it a sale? Is it, management team? And how does that look? I actually had one company that sold to private equity about 3 years ago, and I now have like I have the CEO, I've got the COO, and I've got the vice president of manufacturing in in like each in a different group, which is
Oh, that's
yeah,
interesting.
that's kind of nice, actually. I like that. That was a real win for me in that regards.
No kidding. That's fantastic. Mark, maybe one final question before we wrap up here. Uh, what's the number one thing that our audience could do that would be helpful to you or to Cinco?
So if it's an ask, I guess I'm interested in meeting companies that have 10 to 50 employees in you know, the the majority, especially because of the new group, is like Delaware County, like Southern Delaware County or South Jersey. That's where the newest group is. Although I've got a couple of seats in my group that's in King of Prussia. The most important thing is that a person, an owner, operator, or it could be a senior level executive, is that they need the mindset of as a growth mindset. They want to grow, they want to learn from others, and they're willing to share their experience. Anyone that thinks that they have all the answers generally doesn't isn't a good fit. But anybody that's like a life learner, I mean, those are the individuals that I really want to meet.
That's a fantastic remark. I, you and I have both met a number of folks that seem to feel like they have all the answers. I'll tell you, no one, I've yet to meet anyone that has all the answers. And some of the most successful companies with whom we've worked over the last 6+ years have been the ones that have more of a philosophy kind of based mindset, which is like, hey, I'm not an expert at anything, but I can talk to people and I can understand what makes people tick, and I can find experts who are good at what they do.
Well, look, it's a modicum of humility. That's one. Not realizing that they can learn from others is two. And it's some of the best members I have, and both currently and those that have sold, they're both employee centric and they're customer centric. And if they have that mindset, that's a recipe for success.
That's well said. Customers have to come first, and you have to treat, if you really want to be successful, you have to treat employees as teammates, right? And give them the power to demonstrate creativity, find solutions to problems, and build success for themselves as well as for the company and its customers.
So I'll tell you something really quickly, as I know we have to finish up, but one of the companies that was a member in one of the groups was a company, they were in the trades. I went to I think the gentleman started when I met him. He had 10 employees. He was probably doing 3 to 4 million in revenue. After about 6 or 7 years, he had 35 employees and he was over 10 million in revenue. I went to his office one day and I got there early because we do one-on-ones. And I spoke to his management team. These guys thought he walked on water. It was I mean, I got chills, and you'll love it. I mean, it's so exciting to hear that. They were all on board. They were going to be the best company in their area, and whatever he did. And one of the things that they said is that he never yells at us. I mean, and it was like it was very exciting to hear them talk about the company and the owner the way that they did to tribute to the guy. He's a great leader, and he wasn't there. It was very interesting.
That I think that's fantastic. I did a LinkedIn post a few weeks, maybe it was a month ago, on yelling. Before I had children, I sometimes yelled as a leader. Now it's very rare that I do something like that. And I developed my career in the finance industry where that was kind of the norm. People, I mean, even peers yelled at each other, which is very bizarre and not very constructive for
It's
sure.
counterproductive.
Mark, any closing remarks you'd like to add before we wrap up?
No, I really appreciate the time today, Sean, and the opportunity. Thank you.
No, thank you for investing the time to spend part of your day with us. We'll get you, I'll click the stop recording button in a minute and we'll wrap up and then I'll get you all the material.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.